Hey, welcome. And in this video today, I'm going to talk about a transformation in Informatica data quality. And I'm going to talk about consolidation transformation. So what is a consolidation transformation? The consolidation transformation is an active transformation which tries to create a master copy of the records. So, example, say often, many a times, you are inputting data through a screen or front-end application. Say you are adding customers to a customer database, right? So the files that you're receiving or your inputs may be in number of methods. Either you're receiving your inputs, the copy of customers through files, or you're entering from front end screen or application. So many a times what happens is the same customer may be present in your database more than once. So for example, consider this: employee 1 is present so many times, right? And he sometimes, and why these are entered multiple times is sometimes the source which is feeding data to your system doesn't have the full name, so it creates a customer as in the first record, and then it gets a full name for the customer. It creates a second record instead of updating the already present record. So likewise, you can have multiple same customer present in your database, and consolidation transformation now aims to consolidate all records and create one master copy for this customer, right? So let's go over the theory a bit. Consolidation transformation is an active transformation uh, that analyzes groups of related records and creates a consolidated records for each group, right? As I said. So now you have to configure logic or strategy for the consolidation transformation. So you have multiple logic here. The You can have a simple strategy, which is port based strategy, right? So in simple strategy, you have various methods, like various functions rather, right? Maximum or minimum, okay, or sorry, or you have the longest or shortest, or you have most frequent, most frequent non-blank, or highest row ID, or average. Okay, so these are known as simple strategies. What it does is maximum. Say now you have to choose a strategy or a logic for each of the ports. Okay, so for names, for example, you are choosing most frequent. So you have to configure the strategy for, say, example, name. For salary, you choose the maximum salary, right? So likewise, then for address, you are choosing, say, the longest address, because typically you think the longest address should be the most accurate. So now out of all these address for the customers, from here to here, you make the master record as the one which has the longest address, right? For the state, you choose some other strategies. Say, for example, you choose maximum or most frequent, or you can choose highest row ID. I'll tell you what it means. Now for higher date, you say the minimum or the earliest one. For zip code, you choose non-blank, most frequent non-blank. And say for department, you choose shortest, right? So these are all simple strategies. Okay, let me just align this with the one I've already written. So these are known as simple strategies. So what are simple strategies? Simple strategies work on each port. So you have to configure a logic or strategy for each port. Okay. So, and there's you should all now consolidation tries to consolidate records, but you have to identify a set. Okay. So you think the the records with employee ID equals to 1 should all be the same. Okay. So your group by port is employee ID. Secondly, all employee IDs with 2 should be the same. So your group by port again is employee ID port with the value 2. So you have to choose a group by port, right? Within this data set or sub data set rather, consolidation transformation tries to act and make a single record. So going by this example, these are simple strategies which act on each port to derive a master uh, value for the master record, right? Now apart from this, you have row-based strategies. Row-based strategies. What it does is you have the following type: most data, or most filled, or most, or model exact. So these strategies are a bit different row wise. What it does, it instead of acting on each port, it acts on each record. Okay, so most data means it considers this record, first record, and sees how much characters it has. Most data. Okay. Next, it acts on this record and see how many characters it has. So it also say alongside it's keeping account of characters, right? Within each record group. So say the first one has 10 characters. Second one has around 15 characters. Third one has 9 characters. Fourth one has 25 characters. Fifth one has around 12 characters. And sixth one has 13, and this one is 11, and this one is 10. Okay, so you have this data set that is trying to act on. So in this data set, what it tries to do is it counts the number of characters, and going by the number of characters, this record has the highest character count. So it makes this record as the master record. So this is most data. So most filled is now it tries goes record by record and see how many null values each record has. Okay, so example, this is the most filled record because it has almost every field populated. It doesn't go by character count, it goes by how many fields are blank in this record. So now it makes this record as the master record. So most filled, and modal exact is just the same. It means most frequent non-blank. So what it does is goes row by row, now checks which has maximum values which are repeated in other records, right? So going by this, it will have, say, this record because it's kind of repeat. Values are repeated in other records too, and this record is chosen as the master record. So these are row-based strategies. Okay. So row-based strategy. So what if you have a type, say most record, right? If I'm going by the most data field strategy, and I find that this is 25 and this is also 25, right? So it has a tie. Which record to choose? Because both have the same character count. So it will keep the last qualifying record when it is ordered by the port, group by port. It keeps the last record in that group in the order. So that's called last qualifying value. So say this is the last qualifying value, it keeps this one and makes this one as the master record. Right? Similarly, for simple strategies, you may have a type too. So for simple strategies is again sorting all the records by the employee ID field, and in the same scenario, it will keep the first value. So it keeps the first qualifying record as the master record. So simple strategies preserves the first qualifying values. Row-based strategies preserves the last qualifying values. So these logics or strategies are already sounds quite familiar. So maximum is the maximum character count or the maximum most recent date or the maximum numeric value. Similarly, minimum is the earliest date, lowest character count, or the lowest numeric value. Longest is the max number of characters. Shortest is how short the string is. Most frequent is how many times the value is getting repeated, including null values or blank values. And next one is most frequent non-blank. How many times a value is getting repeated, but it doesn't consider blank values. Highest row ID is actually the default strategy for simple strategies. And the simple strategies, if you don't select configure any ports, so by default, highest row count, it will give the results with highest row count. That means it will give the last row ID for when it is grouped. When it is sort, it gives you the last row ID. So this is the default configuration if you don't choose any specific strategy under simple strategies. Okay, so let me now go back and show you how to implement this practically, right? So say going back to data quality tool, and under mappings make a new mapping, say m underscore record consolidation. There's already a mapping by this name, so let me choose a different name. Drag and drop the source you want to consolidate. In our case, we'll try to consolidate address. Keep it as read because you're going to use it as source. Okay. Next, right click and add a transformation. Choose consolidation. You can either scroll and choose consolidation, or you can enter any name. Either you can scroll, or you can enter a name, and it searches with that name. So consolidation. Press OK. Now drag and drop all the inputs from the source. Under inputs in consolidation, so drag and drop these. So this is your consolidation transformation, and drag an expression. This is not required, but I'm just adding an expression to check the output. You can run the data viewer on consolidation itself, but I'm just dragging and dropping the out columns in the expression. right? So under consolidation, if you back click, go to properties. Now go to strategies. So you can see each of the outputs, okay, corresponding number of inputs that you have fed into the consolidation transformation. Now you can see the different strategies: simple, row-based, or advanced. Advanced is nothing but simple or consolidated transformation. Whatever simple or row-based strategy that you use, internally it generates a function. So instead of allowing the tool to generate a function, you can write that function with your own logic, which I will show you later down the line. So let's start off with simple strategy. As you see, there's a group by port. So this will make a subset of the records for which it has to apply consolidation. Okay, so group by port, choose employee ID as group by port, keep the strategy as default, and here it says the default operation is highest row ID and is selected automatically. Okay, now I've just made a copy of what strategies I need to configure for each port, so as to show you the example in a proper way. So for name, choose most frequent. For salaries, max, address, longest. For state is highest row ID. Next for higher date is the minimum. For zip code, it is most frequent non-blank. And for departments, choose as shortest. Right? So these are the configurations you have chosen for each of the output ports. If you go to advanced, you will see sort is activated by default. Case sensitive sort is activated by default. Output mode. So output mode is important here, whether you want to output only the master record or all the records, like all the input records and the master record. So let's choose all, so that you can see the input records and then you can see the master created out of all the input records. Cache file directory is the directory that you need to choose, where it will make us file to sort the input data, and you have to also choose a cache file size. Okay, tracing level, you have the following tracing level, and it gives the amount of details in your session log or mapping log. Okay, now you can save the mapping, and now you can run, right click, data viewer on your expression. So the expression gets the output of the consolidation. And once you get the output, you can pull this window a little bit up. So now you can see this is the master record, right? How do you know that? The survivor is Y, and these are the rest 8 records are all input records. So if you see, this is highest row ID, employee ID. It doesn't make a difference because all values are same. This is most frequent non-blank. Okay, so none of them are repeated more than once. So you will get SM. So salary is the maximum. So this is the max. It goes and compares each value, okay, for all the records. and it does a max of salary in this data set, records 1 to 8. So this is the value it gets and creates the master with this value. Address is configured for longest strategy. So as you can clearly see, out of all these 1 to 8 records, record 4 as the longest address, right? So this is chosen for the master record. The next is state. So state, you have chosen highest row ID. And if you see, record number 8 is the last record in this group with the highest row ID, which has the value of null for state, so that's why the master gets null as well. Higher date is the earliest date or the most oldest date. It's configured for minimum value, right? So the minimum value is 1980, 1980. Zip code is the most frequent non-blank. So you can see null is repeated how many times? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But it looks for the most repeated non-blank record, which is 01945. Department is configured with the shortest strategy. So out of aviation and ETL, ETL is the shorter word. So master record is created with this value. Okay. So I hope you have understood simple strategy. Okay. So now, keeping this aside, we will now go through the row-based strategy. Okay. So just pull this window down, and after you do that, we have to reconfigure the strategy for consolidation. So instead of modifying this current consolidation transformation, let's make a new one. So because if we change the strategy here, all the settings that we have done will be reset. So making a new consolidation transformation now. Add transformation, consolidation. Okay. Drag and drop all the input, all the ports from the source onto input, and then add a transformation as expression. Next, drag all the output ports from the consolidation onto the expression. Now highlight this consolidation and you can go to the strategies. So instead of, you can pull this up, so instead of simple, now you will use a row based. And as it says, simple configuration will be lost by switching to row based mode. Continue. Yes. So let's see the effect of most data. As I said, most data meaning it will select that record or that row as the surviving row or the master row, which has the most amount of data determined by the most number of characters in that record. So let's choose a group by port as employer ID. Okay, and safety mapping. Now run the expression through data viewer. Now let's see which record is chosen as the master record. So as you can see here, this has the most number of characters, even though the name here is longer in the second row. But if you see the overall number of characters, the fourth record is winning because the address is pretty long here. Okay, so this is how row-based strategy most data works. Now let's choose go to strategies for the consolidation and let's choose most filled. Now run the expression through data viewer. So this should change the master record, and now you can see the first record is chosen as most filled because the first record doesn't have any null columns. Okay. Next, we now choose go to properties as modal exact, meaning most frequent non-blank, and run the data viewer. Now this is the most frequent record. As you can see, why? Because the hire date is repeated 1980 here and here. The zip code is repeated here and here. The address is repeated here in 8th record and first record. Okay. So now let's go to strategy again, and now go to advanced, and instead of all we can select display only the survivor. Now if we run the data viewer on the expression, you will see only 2 survivors are displayed and the rest of the rows coming from source are not displayed. Okay, so hope this is clear to you. Now let's add one more consolidation transformation. Add an expression as well. Drag and drop all the inputs, all the records, columns from source on the inputs for consolidation, and drag and drop all the outputs from consolidation onto the expression. So now go to consolidation strategies and let's choose advanced. In the advanced, we will first use all these simple functions that we went through earlier. And if you highlight this, all these are simple strategies. So console averages for average, and all of them have the same format. So here your first argument is all the input columns that you are assigning, and the second column is the group by port. Additionally, we also have to select the group by port here. So console average, console highest record ID, console longest, console max, console min, then console most frequent non-blank, console shortest. These are the simple strategies, and the row strategies are console modal exact, console most data field, console most filled, and console get row in row field. So let's do the simple strategies. So in order to generate the output values, we have to write strategies now. So let's write the strategy. So employee ID is default, console highest row ID, and this is the input column. So go to ports and then employee ID. Similarly, let's first write all the output ports, and then we will write the strategy for each output. That way it's easier, so that you don't have to switch constantly. So you don't have to generate the value for this survivor because that is coming from consolidation transformation. So you don't need to generate or write strategies for that port. So now name will be console most frequent, and that is the input column name. Salary will be console maximum. Max is the input column name, and you also have to write the group by column name, which is employee ID here. So copying it to the other functions as well. Address is console longest. And again, you have to write the arguments. First argument is the input port, second argument is the group by port. State is again highest row ID. And higher date is console minimum. Zip code is console most frequently non-blank. And department ID is, let's see, shortest. So this completes your logic of generating all the output values. You can validate it to see if it has no issues. This says it's a valid script. Now you can run data viewer on the expression and you will see the output is same as when we use simple strategies. So this is the maximum, this is the longest, this is the earliest, this is the most frequent non-blank, this is the shortest, this is the most frequent. Okay, and now finally let's generate one more consolidation transformation for the row strategies. So drag and drop all the columns from source onto the inputs, and then map all the output port names to the expression. Then go to consolidation strategies, go to advanced. Now we'll use the row based functions. So we can use console most data. Okay, so we have to write a logic. If the row being processed is most data, and here you have to pass all the inputs. And finally, the last argument is the group by port. So if your current record, so this will act on each record, right, or each row. So if your current row has the most data, which will be evaluated by the console most data built-in function, then for each of the output ports, we will start getting the values. Again, you don't need to write a logic for populating is survivor because that's a built-in function. So you will start writing and you will use this function, get row field. So get row field is say when this record has the most data, right? So from that record dynamically at that point of view, if it satisfies this if condition, it gets the first field. The first field denoted by the index 0, which is the employee ID field. You don't have to write employee ID. You just have to write the index. So this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So now I'm changing the index. Okay, and if the current record is not the most data, does not have the most data, then else just populate the fields from inputs. So debug of the fields. This is your end if. So now we'll be populating from the input field. So once you complete this mapping, this will behave same way as row-based strategies. So you can just validate it. It's a valid script. Save your mapping. Now run data viewer on this. Okay, so if you see, it's giving some error because in consolidation, you go to properties, advanced strategies. You also have to choose the group by port here too, which I forgot to give. So now save your consolidation and run data viewer on the expression. And if you see, this is the master record, which has the most data. Let's run it again. Now expand the columns. So this is your master record. And see, it has most data because it just calculates the number of characters in that record is the highest. So this is your most data strategy. You can again go to consolidation strategies and change the strategy from console most data to console most filled. Save the mapping. You can also run without saving. Now you will see the master record is the record which is most filled. Okay, so this is your master record and which is the most filled record. It's derived from this record. Derived from, let me check, this record, because this record doesn't have any null values. And finally you can go to consolidation again and change this to console model exact, which behaves in the same way as most frequent. So again, you can see now this is the master record. Okay. So likewise for advanced strategies also, you can configure whether to display all records or only the survivors. So with this comes to the end of consolidation transformation. I hope this video was useful for you and you were able to easily understand the consolidation transformation. If you have any suggestions for me, do write it in the comment box, and please like my video if this video is of help to you. Thank you very much. See you again. Bye bye.